Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I finally made it home to Hamburg. It was quite a journey dealing with airports, travel, all the above. I don't recommend traveling right now in Europe, flying this week or next week if you can avoid it. I'm flying again on Tuesday, so a couple days, or actually Wednesday morning. I fly to Gran Canaria for the World Cup in Pozo. If you're going to be in Gran Canaria, we can do a meetup. That would be kind of cool. Um, yeah. So if you're in Gran Canaria, I'll do a post in the Facebook group for people who are going to be in Gran Canaria over the next couple of weeks. I'll be there until the 17th. I'm competing in the World Cup that's happening there. And yeah, it'd be great to do a coaching group meetup. Um, hey, Cedric. Yeah, so I haven't been sailing, but did you guys sail? Yeah, I've been just getting used to Hamburg again, getting over, it's been such a crazy few weeks for me with traveling and everything else. Hey, Steen, Jorg, Dum Dum, Dennis. So anyway, so what else have I been doing? I want to hear what you guys have been doing. I want to hear if you've been getting on the water, what's been up. Facebook user wishes me luck in Pozo. Pozo has been sailing freestyle this week, but some good sessions and trying the foil. That sounds good. Hey, Mark, Steen. What have I been doing when not windsurfing? Like I said in some of the last streams, I've been getting into skateboarding, surf skateboarding, and hoping that there's a bit of a crossover, or at least it's something to learn. It's fun to do with my son, and maybe it's something that I can use, a tool that I can use in my coaching. That would be the ultimate, but it's fun just on its own. So even if it's not a tool that I can use in my surfing coaching, I'm happy to do it. But the difference is compared to the water sports, it really hurts. Skateboarding is not soft. And so I've got a little limp from a bruised heel, and I fell on my butt super hard the other day. And it's sort of like in English, we call it a Charlie horse, or an American. I don't know if you guys say that in England. The English and Australian group members can tell me if that's something you guys say. But like when you like land on that muscle, um, I guess it's your glutes. I don't know, and your leg can kind of go dead. So anyway, I've got a little limp from all the skateboarding I've been doing. I'm looking forward to doing some windsurfing. I've seen some great footage from the guys that are there. Costa's killing it. So is Brazinho. If I had to bet on someone winning the event, I would put my money on Philip Costa. He is very impressive. I love watching him windsurf. Hey, Matt, J.A., Caro. Yeah, Facebook user. It's good to have you guys on the stream. Let's jump into the coaching. You guys know the drill. Tell me if you sailed this week, interrupt me, all of that stuff. I'm going to pull up Facebook group and let's just dive into it. All right. So, Facebook group. Let's get the screen share. I think we've got some good topics. I was going through everything that's been posted. And so if you post in the Facebook group, I read everything that's posted. I don't always respond. It's my goal to respond to everything, but I like to respond last because I feel like if I respond first, it can stifle the conversation. And I really want that conversation to grow and be organic. And I want, the opinion from everyone else in addition to my own opinion. So I like to comment last, but I do read everything. And even if I don't comment, I'm still reading it. So please post in the group. We've got some interesting stuff to go through today. Hey, Bart, Max. Yeah, Max, how are you doing? How are you doing getting over your COVID? Yeah, COVID can be rough. I actually had COVID I had it in December, and then I had it again on that short. Well, actually, I don't know if I had it, but I think I had it. I never tested positive, but I think I had it a little bit on Maui. Jeff, is that you? Sailed Hokipa 4 days. Facebook user. Otherwise, sounds fun. Facebook user. All right, let's jump into it. Cedric is saying, 25 knot days all week in Cabarete. Nice, good conditions. Lots of being uncomfortable learning, working on tacks, jibes, and front loops. Lee said riding. Nice. That sounds great. Tips for getting switch stance. I recommend coming out of a jibe. I think that's probably the best way in the beginning to get used to going switch stance. Hey, Thomas. Uh, Coming out of a jibe. But otherwise, for getting switch stance, you really want to have the right board. It can be difficult if you're on a narrow, tippy waveboard to get into the switch stance position. So having a wider board is really helpful. And then otherwise, you come out of the straps, and then you just want to hold everything really upright as you get in the switch stance straps. If you're switching your feet as you're sailing rather than coming out of a jibe. All right, let's get into the coaching. All right. Yeah, Jeff, I keep seeing the stuff that you're posting. It looks like you're having a great trip. Yeah, if you get some footage to share, post it in the group. We'd all love to see it. All right. So first up, this is from Jan about redirecting a vertical top turn. Hi guys, I was able to get a few photos of my session on Silt on Saturday. So where is this, Jan? Is this on Westerland? No filming possible. Unfortunately, there are no more photos to the end of the bail because the battery of the camera died in that moment. Unfortunate. So you have to imagine it. My problem was that I was not able to redirect that turn back into the wave. Instead, I made a not wanted 360 bail to the side. Any tips, or is it just a question of stretching? Had the feeling my body was not flexible enough. Meanwhile, Tomas has some advice. He says, one way stay after jibe, cheating a bit, but makes you learn the stance. So yeah, that's what I said. If you're doing it in a straight line, the foot transition, lean on the boom heavily, stay sheeted in, and have deep straps. Yeah, that's important. You want your straps to be big. I think of it as tall, but deep also works, so you can go in and out of them easily. You don't want to have narrow straps at all if you want to go clue first. All right, so let's check out this sequence. All right, so this is in Westerland. I really like sailing in Silt. It's a fun and challenging place to windsurf. Okay, so here's where the sequence ends, and I can picture, Jan, I can picture exactly what you said about falling sort of like a 360. But before we get into it, I do want to really praise your wave selection. You're getting vertical here. I really like the timing. I like what's going on. I think there's a lot that's more right than not. Silt is difficult. Silt is very difficult. There are a couple little things that I see here that will, I think, help. I want to read what Tomas says and see if he says the same thing. What does he say? So Tomas is saying, nice vertical attack. I think the hand and sail movement is making it difficult to redirect. At this point, you should have your back hand closer to the harness lines. Yes, but the best effect is not when you move the hand back, but rather move the whole sail to the left so the mast is somewhere between your right elbow and the shoulder. Obviously, if you would just move the sail mast held with this wide grip, it wouldn't be easy. Combining the effects is good. Yeah, I mostly agree with that. Yeah. So I think moving the hand, so going from this wide bottom turn grip to at this moment going to the narrow grip, so you're sliding that back hand down the boom. And like Tomas says, moving that front hand across the body can be really useful. But even if you don't do that, just moving that back hand closer to the harness lines is going to open up the sail, make it so that you don't need to stretch as much and allow you to get in a position where then the wave can just hit your board and redirect you back in. So the backhand here plays a very, 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 very important role. Otherwise, we don't see where you're going from this. And I can see that you're already starting to get your weight back, and that your legs are starting to get a bit bent. Um, but one thing you can do is start bending your knees a little bit earlier. So if you start like, I mean, you can have your knees bent the whole time, which is actually maybe the easiest. But if you don't want to change too much, to focus on getting them a little bit more bent towards the end of your bottom turn as you're coming up to the lip, and then move that hand, and that will give you just so much control over the rig, and then it doesn't feel like you're being pulled or being stretched. And then when you're doing this cutback in these onshore conditions, you really want to get the feeling that you're hanging from the boom, and so you're like sheeting out the sail, hanging from the boom. You can touch your chin to your chest. And it's really this sheeting out, hanging feeling. And so if you think about it, the closer your hands are together, the closer in that backhand is, the more the sail is able to sheet out, the more the sail is free, the more the sail then is able to redirect and come back around, uh, which then is just allowing your board to pick up that energy from the wave and come back around, pointing towards the beach. I hope that that makes sense. So that backhand is key, and then the knees are key. So if you like, what we like to say is get low before you go. If you get some knee bend before you go into the bottom turn and keep those knees bent, but applying pressure through the bottom turn rather than going as straight as you are here, that would also give you a little bit more control. But this is a valid bottom turn stance. There's, if this is what you really are comfortable with, I wouldn't change it as much. I think that getting the hands is gonna be huge, but, and getting low before you go would be something that I'd work on after that, unless it sounds like, "Oh, yeah, that's a really interesting thing to work on." It makes total sense, in which case I'd say, "Yeah, go for it." But this bottom turn looks like it's working for you, so I don't wanna mess it up. But getting low before you go is especially important in these kind of onshore conditions like you have in silt. And then really focusing on getting that sheet out and hanging from the boom, getting low, hanging from the boom on the cutback. So it's kind of sheeting out. So like there's two ways to go upwind when you're windsurfing. Like one is to rake the sail back, sheet in, twist your body. But the other way is to sheet out, put weight on that front foot, get on the rail, and it's more of that second kind that will help with this cutback. One thing that's interesting, Jan, I don't know if you do any wing foiling. I don't really, but I did it the day before I left Maui, and it was the first time I'd ever tried it, and I didn't have much experience with foiling or with winging or with anything, and I was just trying to figure it out. And one of the things that Alan Cadiz said to me, he saw me on the water trying to figure it out, and he said, to go upwind, what you want to do is treat it like a cutback when you're windsurfing. And so you're kind of sheeting out and pulling that front arm in to steer upwind when you're winging instead of bringing the wing back. And so that I've only winged like once, right? Like I don't have a ton of experience, but that was interesting in relation to the cutbacks because I think that it's really true in this example where getting those hands together and really pushing that sail out and like hanging from it, creating separation rather than pulling yourself with it will really help because like when you're pulling on the sail and it's pulling you up, that's when you're getting that stretch feeling and you're getting pulled out the back. Yeah, and it sounds like you're keen to try the knee bend. Sounds good. Yeah, get low before you go, and I think that's really important is get low before you go. So you want to get low before you go into that bottom turn. And you'll notice getting low in those knees before you go allows you to have a lot more drive in your bottom turn. And one of the things that I talk about is this power stance. And it's something that's very similar to the stance of in powerlifting, like in the gym with heavy weights, where you've got a bit of bend at the waist, bit of bend at the knees, and you're really able to transfer that power from your core down to your feet to the board. And if you think you've got straight legs, it's really difficult to transfer that power to the board to get the board on the rail. And also being low like that, it's a lot easier then for you to rock back and forth, toe side to heel side. It just gives you a lot of control. Also, it just makes it so you're not being stretched as much, because then if the sail is pulling against you, you have a bit of room to go. But if your legs are straight, you don't. Now, here your legs are bent, but then I feel like you realize you have to get the legs bent in order to hit the lip. But then because your legs were straight before, then you're having to kind of come down against the sail. And at this point, when it's onshore, the sail is really pulling. So if you start with the legs, the knees bent, get low before you go, it will just work a lot better. I hope that makes sense, right? Like if you start off kind of straight, which is a way that you can bottom turn. Like for example, Loic Le Sauvage, the French windsurfer, bottom turns with kind of straight legs like this, and he really makes it work. But in general, getting those knees bent really helps. And you want to do it before you go, not in the bottom turn. If you do it in the bottom turn, it's not going to work as well. You want to do it before you go into the bottom turn. Get low before you go. All right, John, welcome. Great to have you on the stream. It's been windless. I hope you've been getting in the water, supping, haven't been too busy with work. I know you've got some crazy work stuff going on. I hope that's all going well. Jeff is saying that there was some trade wind, onshore swell, worked on dropping my butt below the board on the cutback, generated big gouges and very little spin out. Love it. What's interesting, Jeff, I'm trying to look up for this crossover with the surf skating that I'm doing and the windsurfing, because ultimately, yeah, it's great. If I can learn something new and then I can use that to teach people to windsurf better, that's great. And one of the things I'm really trying to do with it on the ramps is get my butt below the board and get the board sort of above my head as I'm doing my front side turns. And so it's something I've been working on, different format, not on the windsurfing. But I definitely noticed that it works on the skateboard. It helps. All right, let's keep going. So Paul is asking if anyone has experienced sailing in Lebanon. This is a great question. Yes, I've never windsurfed there, but I know that there's a whole community of windsurfers in Lebanon, and I'm friends with some of them on Facebook, and I've met them in other places, and I will find their contacts and put them in the group. So great question, Paul. Great question. Yes, I do know some of the Lebanese windsurfing crew. I'll connect them. Cool. All right, Eric. By the way, Jeff, the other Jeff, English Jeff, welcome to the stream. Haven't seen you on here in a while. How you doing? I hope you're good. I think you hurt your toe or hurt your foot. I hope that's healed up and you're feeling better. 4-0 full on. That sounds great. How's the progress? What are you working on? All right. So Eric is saying possibly unpopular opinion. Oh, I like how that starts. But I really think the 1 foot, one-handed loops need to go. It just looks forced and neither functional nor stylish. The one no-handed taka, on the other hand. So Eric, I agree and disagree with you. So I really like one-handed moves in general. One-handed loops, one-handed back loops, one-handed takas, one-handed goiters. I think it adds some style because in windsurfing, we get so stuck with our hands on the boom. And so getting a handoff allows for some body positions, for some different body positions. And so I think it adds a lot of style. Front hand off, backhand off, whatever it is. I think I like most moves in windsurfing with a hand off because it allows for the body to be positioned differently rather than being stuck on the boom with both hands, so the shoulders square. I also like some 1 foot moves. I think then there's, for the same thing, some separation with the board, and I think it can look quite cool. Where I agree with you though is some of the one hand, 1 foot moves. And I think that some of those look quite forced. You see them a lot in the competitions and they score highly and they're very difficult. The one-handed 1 foot back loops are very difficult. And some of them I think are pretty ugly, but technical. They're very technically difficult and they score well. So that's why people do them. In terms of the 1 foot back loops, I don't really like the flutter kick that some people do. That was in style a few years ago, and I'm not a big fan of it, but I do like the one with the extended foot off. So like Alessio does some pretty cool 1 foot back loops, and I don't like the ones with all the kicks. I like it sort of extended where then the legs are doing sort of a split. And I think for me, that looks the best. Love this discussion. Cool discussion. Some people agree, some people don't. Yeah, cool. All right, we already talked about this one. Jeff is saying that the toe keeps breaking. No pain. Tape is the answer. Oh no. Toe keeps breaking does not sound good. Wishing you the best. I'd love to see some footage and photos or just questions of whatever you're working on. Post it in the group. It was great seeing your progress. There was a period where you're able to post regularly. That was super cool to see. And great to hear that the loops are coming on strong. Nice. All right. Time to get back into it. So Alex shared this clip. We got some music. This is pretty sick. This is incredibly difficult. So he's going for a back loop while he's coming in. So he's riding the wave and doing a back loop off the lip and landing back inside the lip. This is Mark Pare. This is pretty darn hard. This move scores very high. This is the highest scoring move in the waves in Pozo. And there's a lot of style in this one. I really love how he lands on the lip, does a little floater, and then bashes in. Someone in the chat was asking how many people have done this before. I think actually quite a few people have landed them. I know I have. I've seen Victor Fernandez land them. I think Francisco Goya and Josh Angulo were also doing them back in the day when they were competing. I've seen Marino Gill land really good ones. Philip Koster is a beast at landing these. Some of the ways that he takes off, it just seems like magic. I don't understand how he does it. This one I can kind of see how it works. Bujma. So there's a handful of people that have done them. I've landed some push loops off the lip there. I've seen Victor land push loops off the lip. Alex Mussolini as well. Brazinho, which feels really cool. Yeah, and the back loop as well. It's because the wind is so onshore. It's a place that you can do them. But it's pretty cool clip. Nice maneuver. All right, I asked the question. This is now a little bit old. What is the most beautiful place you have windsurfed? And I love that people are still answering this. So if you haven't answered, come into the Facebook group and give your answer. We've got some great answers. Namotu, that's so cool. Mauritius, Kuden Beach Park. I don't know where that is. Australia. There's just a lot of great answers and inspiration for places to travel to. So that's pretty cool. Whitsands, I see someone say. Whitsands is stunning. Cape Town is stunning. My biggest takeaway from the first trip I ever did to Cape Town was how beautiful it is. Cape Town is somewhere that is a sort of windsurfing paradise. The windsurfing is not normally amazing. It can be amazing, but it's not normally amazing, but it's quite consistent. So you can sail, I don't know, every day, more or less, if you're willing to drive for it, but you have to know where to go. And then it can be really, really good. It's beautiful, and the lifestyle there is really good. There's a lot of poverty, and the history is really rough, and that is difficult. And I know that's a turnoff for some people, and I totally get it. That's hard. The way that I kind of help myself deal with that is I try to help. So my wife, for example, runs a charity in Cape Town, helping in the schools in the townships, and so help give money to that or donate my time and try to help give back a bit because I love being there so much. And then the flip side, the dark side of that whole thing is that also there are some safety concerns. It's not the safest place as well. So take the good with the bad. But it is an amazing spot for windsurfing, considering how consistent it is, how beautiful it is, and that there's a major city right next to the windsurfing. There are not so many places like that. Um, Great city. All right, next up, Dennis with a travel question. These questions are great. I love these questions because sometimes we get tunnel visioned thinking about maneuvers and about wave riding and whatever else. And there are so many aspects around wave riding that are really important. And it's great to ask a question like this. So if you have a question that is not on the water related, but is about, I don't know, not about, it could be anything, whatever it is, post it in the group. That's a great topic uh, or theme of topics to talk about because there's so much around being on the water. And if you can do that better, you have a better time on the water. And ultimately, the goal of all this coaching is just for you to have a better time on the water. I hear people say, "Oh, I don't want to do coaching because it's my hobby. I just do it for fun. I just want to have fun. I don't care about getting better." That's totally fine. But my feeling is that if you're doing these things better, you're going to have more fun. If you're packing your gear better, you're not stressed out at the airport. You make sure you've got the right size sails for your vacation to El Medano. If you can go upwind better, then you're catching more waves. If you know if you're better at picking waves and timing on waves, then you're getting more waves and you're getting the right waves and your waves are more fun. You're able to do more on them. And the more you can do, the faster you can go, the more sections you can make. So for me, getting better opens up the fun. It just makes it more fun. And that's the main reason that I'd recommend people to work on their skills, whether they're doing coaching or not. I think that it just makes it more fun to, you know, bring the analogy over to the skateboarding I've been doing. I can see that there's this whole set of skills that I'm lacking. And if I had those, it would just open up a lot more that I could do. And I would have more fun. I have fun now, but if I could do more things, it would open up different parks or different scenarios. It would just open up more. And yeah, so I think the fun is also related to what you can do. And it doesn't mean that if you're not as good that you're not having fun. That's obviously not what I'm saying. Um, because also that process is fun and it helps you not get frustrated because otherwise you can get frustrated, if you don't have the right gear or if whatever you can't handle strong winds or light winds, then you get frustrated in those situations. And then even if you can't handle those situations yet, but you're working on it and process focused, you can have fun. And so I think ultimately, I mean, you guys, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys that are here know this, but this is also something to say to your friends who are like, "Oh, I don't care about getting better. Oh, I don't care. It's my hobby. I just want to have fun." It's a rebuttal to that comment, like, because I feel like people can be judgmental and they can be like, "Oh, why do you care so much about your hobby? Why do you care about getting better? You're not a pro," or I don't know. They can be kind of dismissive, kind of weird. I've seen that attitude on the beach. And yeah, that's just stupid because it makes it more fun. It just makes it more fun. So anyway, end of rant. Let's get into Dennis's question. Noob question about traveling, equipment selection, and how to pack it. I'll be in El Medino from July 5th to July 21st. Nice. With my wife and son. I'll take some windsurf equipment with me, but I wonder which kit. So input from habitués is welcome. He's 83 to 84 kilos. He'll catch the harbor wall and Cambeso. He will share equipment with his wife. He only has one board bag, so the space for a board and 3 sails, maybe 4. Here's my plan: the 424752 and a Quattro Cube 95 or 84. Based on my last year experience, the 95 sounds a better choice, as wind can be light and up and down. so having a floater might be a good option. Plus, I'm a bit injured and not a big fan of super strong winds. I don't mind trading a 40 knot day for some family time. I might have space and some weight left for a 3.7 and a 340 bottom, but I'm not sure it will be worth it on a 95-liter board. My son's bodyboard will have to fit in as well. How does that sound? Second question is about how to pack the kit. I haven't traveled with board bags since 2007. I watched the live stream from January 30th and already got a few good tips. My board bag is too big for my board, so I wonder how to stabilize it. I have to find a solution or everything will be loose. My biggest concern is about the sails, so I don't want to get them squeezed and damage the cloth. Big roll with the sails together on top of the board. Every sail alone, but rolled very tight. Roll them by pair. Any piece of advice is welcome. Last question. How do you find a taxi that accepts a board bag for the ride from the airport to El Medino? Lots of great questions. Thank you, Dennis, for asking this. And I love your photos. What stylish pictures. Nice new sails, nice new board. Nice. And I love how you've taken this photo. And this is this other stuff that you might have to bring. This is your board bag. Looks like a good board bag. So the question I'd have with the board bag, because you're worried about stabilizing the board, is whether it has little webbing straps internally that you can use to tie down the board. So most big board bags like this have straps, strips, more than straps, like webbing strips with like a buckle on the inside that you can use to tie down your board to the bag, and that stops the board from going all over the place. The bag doesn't look too heavy. That's my number one concern always with board bags. The second question is who you're flying with, because who you're flying with determines sort of how difficult it is. You want to make sure with most airlines that you've booked your windsurfing stuff ahead of time. With most airlines, that's the right way to go. Not all. Some of them, it's better just to show up at the airport. Like, for example, with TAP, the Portuguese airline, I have better luck just showing up at the airport. It's quite difficult to get it booked beforehand, and they seem nice, accommodating, and it's cheaper if you do it at the airport. But most other airlines, that's not the case. So Caro says that the taxis are directly at the airport, and it's about 50 euros to El Medino. And yeah, sometimes it's less. I think when I did it with Claudius, it was a little more like 30. We did it together, and it was really funny because I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was with Claudius, Caro's boyfriend, and it was the two of us. And so basically, anyway, first of all, to answer your question, Dennis, you just go out from the airport, you carry your bags, you go to the right, and there's a taxi stand, and you just tell them, I mean, they'll see it. You just tell them you have a board bag, and then they'll call a taxi that's big enough. You might have to wait a little bit. You might not have to wait. Max is giving a great point. Always take your own webbing straps to tie the boards and quiver bag to the taxi. They sometimes have roof racks, but no straps. That is a great tip. Great pro tip. I'm going to put that on the screen. Max, this is a great tip. Yes. Bring your straps. Always bring straps. Always bring some webbing. It is useful. Anyway, so you just go over to the taxis. They'll see that you have the board bag. They'll call the guy that has the racks or has a van or whatever it is. But it was so funny. Like I remember we told the guy our street. I think we were on like Maritimo or something. Maritino. I can't remember exactly what it was last year. But the guy was like, he's never heard of it. Never heard of it. And we show him the picture on the map. And he's like, Maritimo. And it's like exactly the same thing we just said. But anyway, it all worked. It's easy. El Medino is easy. You just go to the right, find the taxis. They accommodate you with the board, take you to El Medino. It's easy. In terms of what to pack, that's a little bit more difficult. So what I would always do, so you say you're flying with TAP. I don't know what your baggage allowances or budget or anything else, but TAP does allow normally, if your bags are under 23 kilos, that they can count towards your normal baggage allowance. And so if you're flying with 3 people, you're probably around 3 or 6 bags, depending if you have 1 or 2 bags each. I don't know if cost matters in this case. Normally, I think it's 90 euros with TAP. for a board bag. Um, anyway, so you can try to get the board bags to count as a normal bag, but then you need them under 23 kilos, which is pretty tough to do. But one of the things I do anyway, whether I'm flying with TAP or not, which is funny that you're flying with TAP. I mentioned that's the one airline where I don't do it beforehand. It still might be worth trying to do it beforehand. Their website is terrible. The TAP website is terrible. So I think it's not even possible to book a board bag beforehand. I don't know. Tell me if you have or not. I think the last time I tried to do it and it wasn't possible online, like they had the option, but then you click it and nothing happens. But the airports are generally they're pretty good. The TAP I fly a lot with TAP, and I've never had a really bad experience with the gear. Normally, it's like 90 or 100 euros depending on your route, and they're pretty nice. It's better if you have status with them. I don't know, they care more than like Lufthansa or some of the other airlines if you have Star Alliance, silver or gold, which I have no idea if you do or not. But even if you don't, it shouldn't be a problem. But anyway, back to the packing. One of the things that I do is I always put or not always, but I often put my extension and my base, which you're missing the base. Make sure you pack that. That's an important part of your equipment. And your foot straps and your fins. I put that stuff, the base, the extension, the foot straps, and the fins in another bag. I put that in my clothing bag or another bag. Often, actually, I don't even have a clothing bag that I'm checking. I just have the clothing bag that I take on the plane as like my carry-on. And I try to put that stuff in a bag that's different than the board bag just to save weight. Um, sometimes that doesn't matter because you're not taking that much stuff, but if weight is a concern, the extension, the base, the fins, and the foot straps are things that can come out and go in another bag. So I would take your 95 board. I think that makes sense. It can be super windy in Cabezo and in El Medino, and then you might feel like you want the smaller board. But in that case, you can find a smaller board to ride or just ride your 95. 95 compared to 84 and is not such a big difference. And you're pretty tall, so you have the control from your height, Dennis, as well over the board. So I think the 95 is the way to go. And most days are lighter there. So I think that you'll be fine. And if you really need that small board, if you have a week of 4237 conditions and you really need that small board, you can find that there. You can find something to rent. You can find something to borrow. But the 95 will be good for you 90% of the time or 95% of the time. Really, I think Cabezo it can be super windy, but it's more of like 4.2 to 4.7 spot than 3.7 to or 3.4 to 3.7 spot like Pozo is. In terms of the sails, depending on how heavy this whole package is, once you get it all packed up, I would bring the 3.7. It's always nice to have a 3.7. And I think you can ride the 3.7 on the 95, and that's not a problem if you have a day like that or if there's a day for your wife. What you could do, so a 340 bottom doesn't weigh very much. So my first inclination is that you just throw in this picture, and the sail is about, I don't know, a little bit over 2 kilos, and your mast piece is like, this adds maybe, I don't know, 3.5 kilos, something, all of this stuff. It's not adding that much. So I don't know if they'll care at the airport or if that's your concern. The other thing you can do, I don't know if TAP does this, but you can check if you can check in the night before, which also helps. So someone is saying that extensions cannot go in the hand luggage. I've definitely flown with extensions in the hand luggage, but maybe depends on the airport, depends on the security. So if you want to be sure, put it in another bag. But I guess that your wife or your kid is also taking a clothing bag, and so I'd put it in there then if you don't want to risk it in the hand luggage. But it doesn't need to go in the board bag. So then you can just have your board with no straps, no fins, all that stuff goes in the other bag. The boom and the sails. And so if the sails, Um, let's see, they're less than 3 kilos each. The other thing is I travel without the sail bags. So that's another part of your question, how to protect the sails. So I travel without the bags because that saves weight. You do want to make sure that the sails are rolled very tightly. I know that some people do roll sails together. I've never done that. What I prefer to do is just roll the sail very tightly. I made a video about how to roll sails tight. Wonder if I can find that and post it here. So we don't have to watch this right now, but well, actually, maybe there is what I want to show you, which basically is that you want to make sure that the battens are lined up when you're rolling, and you can. So if it's not lined up, what you want to do is you pull from here to straighten the sail to make sure they're lined up, and you can keep pulling from this side of the sail, the leech of the sail, to make that roll really tight. And you want to make sure that the roll is really, really tight. And that way it has some integrity and it's not going to get squashed and the sailcloth isn't going to get creased or damaged. And then you can really put your hand in here, grab some of the sail, and you'll see the motion that I'm going to do. Yeah, just sort of like wiggle it and pull it like that. And you get it really tight this way. Yeah, which you want. You want the sail really tight because then it's not going to get squished. So here, I'm going to put this in here. So I think the bigger gear is definitely important. Some people are saying you don't even need the 3.7, but I don't know. Taking a 3.7 and the 340 bottom doesn't seem that hard, and it gives you the option. I don't know. The other thing you could do if you're worried about weight in the airport is you take a 5.2. So this is not optimal, but what you could do is you take a 5.2 bag, and then if you need to just check another bag, like you could take it out of the board bag, just throw it in the sail bag and just check the sail. I've done that before in situations where I'm just like a couple kilos overweight and I have to slim down. And then you could even put which I think in the time I did it, I put my extension and base in the sail bag, and so it took out, a bit of weight. But in general, I think you should be okay with one board. You're kind of on the limit. Like what you put in the first picture looks kind of perfect, and I think if you take this, you'll be fine. But if you want to be, 100% certain, then I think it's not bad to take that 3.7. If you can weigh it beforehand and see if it's under 32 kilos, with 32, 33 kilos with the 3.7, then I would definitely take the 3.7. If you can't get it to that weight, then maybe consider going like this. So we've roundabout answered your question. So Dennis, is that clear enough? Does that help you enough? So we talked about where to find the taxi, how to roll the sails, to put some of the smaller gear in another bag so it's not going in the board bag. I turn the head of the boom. So the Chinook booms, they've got articulating heads. I turn the head, and I put the flat part against the board so I don't have that bulky head that can damage the board. Does that make sense? So you can turn the head, and then you have the flat part of the head on the board. See if there's straps in the bag. There should be. Most bags have straps. So underneath in this bottom compartment that you can tie down the board to stabilize it. And then looks like this bag has pockets for your mask. That's great. Looks like it's pretty easy, intuitive how to pack this. In terms of, the 3.7, if you can fit it with the weight, I'd take it. If you're like 1 kilo off, you could not bring the 340 bottom, and the 3.7 has in the sail bag in the pocket, it has a extended head webbing. You could put that in, and you could use the 370 mast on the 3.7. That's maybe not ideal, and then you've got to dick with it. It's kind of not that easy to do, especially if you're doing it temporarily, and then you've got to put the other webbing on, and recalibrate the downhaul setting. So that's not a perfect solution, especially because the 340 bottom doesn't really weigh that much. But that is an option as well if that was something that you wanted to do. But I would try to take the 4 sails, I think. But I think if you don't take the 4 sails, you'll also be fine. So if it gets to the point where you're just stressed out, don't overthink it. Take these 3 sails, 4.2, 4.7, 5.2. You'll be fine. The 95-liter board, you'll be fine. Most days are not that windy there. So I think you'll be fine. But it can get really windy, but mostly it's less windy than Pozo. And so even when it's like a 3.7 day in Pozo, it'll be a 4.2 day in El Medano. So I really think you'll be fine. But if you do have space for it, bring it. Why not? All right. I hope that answers that question. Yeah, cool. All right. Moving on. All right. Eric says, so being an armchair looper, I'm a bit surprised by various tutorials claiming the back loop is technically harder than the front loop. The front loop involves throwing the sail forward, pulling on the backhand, and tuck the back leg. The back loop seems to go straight up and look over your front shoulder to spot the landing. So the front loop is scarier and it's a lot harder to kind of commit to and to try, whereas the back loop is kind of easier to just to huck and go into your first rotation. But the back loop is exponentially more difficult than the front loop. The front loop is easy. Pretty much anyone can learn the front loop. If you can jibe and plane and do jumps and, you know, kind of do some little wave rides, you don't even have to do very good wave rides, you can do a forward loop. Forward loops are a lot about just understanding what it is and then understanding the fear, getting over the fear. We did an online forward loop course last year. It's hard teaching that stuff online, but hopefully I know that it got a few people looping, more than a few people. And it's a move that I really think anyone past a certain level in windsurfing can learn. The back loop is not that way. A lot of people try back loops, and I think a lot of people who try them will never get them consistently. Maybe they'll land a few, but getting the back loop to the point where you can land it consistently is very, very, very hard. The landing is really difficult. It's really technical. It's different in different conditions. So yeah, they are really different from each other in terms of difficulty. The forward loop, once you've got it, you can do them. Whereas the back loop, even if, I can land pretty much 100% of my back loops, both sides, wind from the left, wind from the right. And sometimes I'll crash them, which you could say maybe that means you can't land 100%. But everyone, that's true of Brasinho, it's true of Coster. I remember there was a heat at Hokipa where Brasinho would have won the world title if he could just land a back loop, and he didn't. Whereas a forward loop, they're pretty easy once you get it, once you get over the fear. Because also the forward loop, you're landing on the tail, and so it's not very technical, whereas the back loop, you're landing on the nose, and the sail has wind in it. So the one difference is the forward loop, you're landing on the tail, and the sail is neutral. With the back loop, the sail has wind in it, and you're landing on the nose. And so it's just a lot more technical. All right. Greg says that he is going to, we already talked about this. So is your trip to Tarifa over, Greg? I think it is, because that was this week. Or are you in Tarifa now? How was it? Give us the follow-up. Give us the report. How was it? All right. So Kurt says, hope I made it home. I did. Thanks. Do you recommend riding sup in the unnatural stance? So goofy for a regular foot or the other way around to practice wave sailing? Yes, 100% I do. Great question. And yes, practice in your bad stance. It will make you better. And then there's a lot of crossover with windsurfing because obviously in windsurfing, we windsurf both sides. All right, Adrian had this problem with his mast. This is a warranty. The ferrule has come loose. I've actually never seen this before, but theoretically it's possible. The ferrules are glued in, and yep. So Adrian and I communicated directly, and warranty hopefully is solved by now. All right, Antoine is going to Mauritius. That sounds nice. I've never been there. Looks amazing, and he's looking for advice, wave conditions, and rental companies. And I've never been, so I actually don't have any advice here, but we have a lot of great comments. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Ezzy coaching, you can see it's also up here somewhere. This is one reason why it's worth it to join. Like, yes, on Sundays I answer all the questions, but also there's so much good information in the group. You guys are amazing. I love the different responses. We even have Alex Mussolini responding, which is super cool. He recommends talking to Tom Hartman about gear, which is also the person that I would contact about gear and about information. Tom is super friendly. He's a former pro windsurfer himself. I recommend talking to him. Reach out to him. See what he says. You are in good hands. So hopefully your questions are answered. I've never been to Mauritius, so I can't say any more than what these guys have said. All right. Max posted this video. He was sick with COVID, and here's a video showing what he missed. Looks like fun conditions. Bummer, Max. I'm sorry. I hope you're feeling better. This is a really interesting question from Kevin. We talked about this a little bit last time. He says, what are additional things that you want to see in the community? And so we have some good responses here. And Adrian wants to see more beginners asking questions. And I love this. This is great. And it's such a good suggestion because this is not something that I would have thought of on my own. But I love having a space where it's like ask anything space, where it's for beginners or like a beginner only thread or a beginner only stream. I don't know the right way to format it. I'll think about it, talk with it with the moderators and the community. If you have an idea, post it here. This is the place to post it. So I'm just going to post a reply to Adrian because so pop it to the top of the community Facebook page. So if you have an idea of how to have a beginner friendly space, comment here, or if there's something that you want to see in the community, put it here. Great idea. All right. Here's a wave session from, let's check this out. Here's a wave session from Vicente. Yeah, that looks cool. So this is in Vicente. This is with Mika. Let's go through and look at the footage on the water. Nice water angle. Who filmed that? Looks like fun sailing. Young Ripper charging. Nice. Looks fun. All right. That is the end of what was posted in the group. So I am going to get ready to sign off. Join the Facebook group. If you're not there, there's the link. You can ask your questions, post your photos, videos, comments, concerns, all of the above. I'm getting ready to go to Gran Canaria. I'm going to be there until the 17th. If you're also on Gran Canaria, post it in the group, and then we can have a meetup. We can do a coaching group meetup. Otherwise, there's some other projects that I'm working on. I'll post them first in the Facebook group, and then talk about them on the stream next week, Sunday. There still are 1 or 2 places left in the second week of the coaching that I'm doing in Denmark. So if you're interested in that, the link is in the group, or you can message me, or yeah, it's, I think, not that hard to find, but you can also message me. And yeah, you're welcome to apply. All right, I'm going to sign off. Take care, everyone. I hope you have a good week. I hope it's windy, and I will see you next week, Sunday. Take care and goodbye.